Now that the game is here, nothing can satisfy our galactic ambition. Welcome to the Star Wars Unlimited podcast, where we discuss how to outmaneuver your opponents. I'm Faith, and I'm here with J-Rod, Carbon, and his dudeness. Before we begin today, we have an exciting announcement. With the official release of Star Wars Unlimited, we have launched the Outmaneuver Discord. It is a place to contact us directly, build decks, and find like-minded people to play with. You can find a link in the description of this video. While you're at it, do the YouTube thing. Subscribe and follow us on Spotify. Guys, we no longer have to go another day without being able to buy Star Wars cards because the game is now released. Let's start with talking about our best pulls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I got my two boxes today, recording this Friday the 8th, so just the actual launch day of the game. It was a ton of fun. I didn't get any like super high value legends or anything. I did get a Falcon was probably the most expensive card I opened. It was really awesome card. I wanted that for building some Han Green. That was really fun to open. And I think the two coolest cards that I opened, I got a Hyperfoil Han Solo unit and I got a Hyperfoil K2SO. And K2SO in particular is a really strong card, and Han, I was planning on playing that card, so I'm gonna be using both of those. So those were super fun to open. Yeah, that's the best from my opening at least.
Yeah, I got a full case today as well. And honestly, my case started out with a bang. We were actually hanging out in our new Discord. I streamed in there for some of the few folks that we already have in here. And I think one of the first like 5 packs I opened had a Hyperspace Home 1 and then a foil Darth Vader in it. I honestly can't remember what the rare was because it was so irrelevant, but just pulling those 2 cards in the same pack was my excitement was through the roof.
It was
And
pretty
then
poggers, yeah.
yeah, and then the next box, like first or second pack, I think had just a foil Boba Fett. So go back to back, foil Boba, foil Vader was pretty awesome. Didn't get any showcases, but did get 2 Vaders, so was pretty happy with that. I have 2 Boba Fetts now. I have a playset of Falcons, 2 Lukes, so the overall spread of the day was pretty good. The saddest pulls that I got, I have a full playset of Bounty Hunter Cruise Hyperspace Foil. So if anyone's looking to trade for that amazing card,
I
I have a full playset. I can easily trade the full playset for like
I
maybe a Darth Vader or something like that if you
I
wanted.
I have the opposite opinion and happen to think those were your best pulls of the day. Can you imagine getting a full playset of Hoyle cards? It's amazing.
Uh,
It was not fun. But
and
if you want
then
them, let me know.
and then J-Rod also now has more ripped up Scout Bike Pursuers than I have intact Scout Bike Pursuers, which is one of my favorite cards from this set. So he did have quite the box opening, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was trying to make sure that Faith could not acquire Scout Bike Pursuers because I don't think he should be playing that card, and he really disagrees. So when I pulled one, he got very excited, and I decided to assert my dominance and just show him how worthless I think that card is.
Including doing it to a foil Scout Bike Pursuer, which
It's
was
it's important to note that this foil Scout Bike Pursuer was the literal last card in the case.
You could say Karma got the last laugh on that one.
I mean, I was absolutely horrified being new to physical games. I'm like treasuring each and every like little common card that I open, bro. And then just watching him just like rip up cards like it was a couple cards, right? And
Oh
I was
my
like, oh, don't
god.
that hurts, dude. Don't
Was
do
there
that.
was there anything else of note that you might have ripped up?
I did also rip a Bail Organa out of frustration because, like I had mentioned, the beginning of the case was real good, started on a real high, and then from there it just took a real big nosedive. And I was terrified after like my first like 5 packs having a Vader that I wasn't gonna pull a Vader in the entire case after that, and so I was panicking. And then like I think was it second to last or last box had the Vader in it,
Second to last.
second to last, and like so like we were like I think on box 4, and I had pulled like the second or third Bail Organa, and I already had like 2 or 3, and I was like, I hate this card, so I just tore it up.
One of the best parts of the whole box opening, IMO.
for me, the 2 cards that stand out for me, I was lucky enough to get a foil Avenger, and I was excited about that, and I also got myself a Boba, and I guess with the Boba, I'll add a 3rd card, I did get a foil, Fett's Fire Spray, so that was a nice little pairing. Not
Nice.
bad for 1 box that I've opened, and I've got 1 box that I'm currently looking at, which I'm excited to dive into a little bit later today.
Very nice. I also pulled a playset of Fleet Lieutenants, hyperspace, to be clear,
Oh
out
yeah,
of my
there's so many.
case.
We saw so many different
So
hyperspaces
many.
in
And
mine and Jarod's openings. It's so. I love hyperspace. I cannot overstress enough how much I love the hyperspace cards. They're so
oh,
all
I traded for 2 Bosk hyperspace too for my Boba Fett deck.
very nice, very nice.
So I was pretty hyped because so I just got home from hanging out with some friends in real life, and like basically everyone there got their own case. So we were like, I'm building this deck, I'm building this, and we're like, oh, you have hyperspace for this. And we were like trading like commons for each other for commons hyperspace and uncommons for uncommons and hyperspace, and it was a pretty awesome evening, I have to
Uh,
say. Shout out to my guys Paul, Ron, Dominic, and Bo for fun evening of playing games real life.
It was great to watch J-Rod open all those cards. My favorite card that J-Rod opened was his foil hyperspace Keep Fighting, which is the best art in the game in hyperspace.
Ooh,
Was
good
great.
card.
The one thing I was disappointed on is I came into the day only needing 4 hyperspace rare leaders to complete my full set of all of the hyperspace leaders in the set, including Luke and Vader. So I have the ones from Gen Con, and I only pulled 1, which was Palpatine, which is great 'cause I love Palpatine, so I was really hyped for that. But I'm still missing 3 now, so I still need Thrawn, Grand Inquisitor, and Hera, I believe. So
That's a shame.
yeah, hopefully I'll be able to acquire some of those here shortly. And everyone that opened a case only opened like 1 of those. So, like they were like, I need it for my collection, so like I'm not gonna trade it, which like makes sense. It's like so no one pulled like extra ones, which is kind of a bummer.
That's a shame.
But what J-Rod's saying is his DMs are open. Hit him up if you got those.
My DMs are also open, but that's a separate issue.
Dude, what did you open?
I haven't opened anything yet.
Got him.
Yeah, Dudas, I believe, is waiting for his stuff is coming Monday, I think. So
I'm a sad boy. I have to watch.
yeah, maybe on the next pod episode we can quick short segment of Dunas
I,
getting
I
some
just,
insane cards. So
Or
I just
just
have
check
to
out the
watch.
Discord because he'll probably post a picture of his
oh yeah, there you go.
For
stuff
sure.
in the Discord.
Whoa, probably not though.
We'll make him do it.
All right, so now that we've got to talk about our exciting pulls from the last little while, let's now move on to a subject that's been getting some conversation and controversy over the last little while, and that is the sleeves and playmat ruling in tournaments. J-Rod, do you mind just giving a little description of what we're talking about?
Yeah, I mean the quick abridged version is just that FFG is only allowing sleeves made specifically for Star Wars Unlimited by GameGenics or any opaque sleeves that have no art, and then they're only allowing GameGenic or blank playmats. So one single solid color. So that's kind of a TLDR. I'm not a big fan of this. I'm not a fan of this at all, to be honest with you. As someone who, for this specific game, got a custom mat and custom sleeves, it was pretty disappointing to hear this news after I had already committed to purchasing said items that I technically can't use at larger events. I'm hoping that this rule's in place just to stop like the anime girls or some of the other like lewd things that really don't belong in on like a game that can have children at it, or that are in game stores that can have children there.
Yeah.
So I understand like that side of the rule, but I don't know. It just I think they could have like more specifically outlined that if that was their single intention, and the way they have it set up is feels more like we want you to use our official FFG stuff, which like probably wasn't their intention, but it's the way it kind of like feels a little bit.
An
So
interesting point, an interesting thing about this rule is that you can't even use, according to the law, you can't even use like Destiny mats that are Star Wars from FFG or other Star Wars or FFG related mats. They have to be just from Star Wars Unlimited or blank.
Well, so I guess my opinion. Of course, I'm more new to this than anybody here, but the sleeves part I don't mind as much, like because I feel like most people are already playing with either opaque sleeves or
Game Genic ones.
the game genic ones, right? And I think those are fine, and there's plenty of options, especially for the just like the colored ones. I'm just using Dragon Shield solid color ones, and I love them so far. They're great. I plan to keep using them. The matte is where it gets a little bit more like a little more difficult, right? Because the mat I feel like is it's a little bit more of an like more expensive thing to get, right? And people really want to show off their cool thing, like, and I get why they're doing it is to prevent like potentially inappropriate images, that kind of stuff at tournaments, at events, right? But I kind of hope that they like revisit this rule, right? Especially for the mats, right? And because it'd be cool to play with our, cool, Star Wars mats that we have, whether they be, custom or from, Etsy or whatever, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that the rule needs to be like removed. I think it just needs to be altered a little bit because I do think having some restriction on
Oh
mats
yeah.
is a fine thing. I think maybe just like leaving it up to like the judge's discretion, which I sometimes can get hairy, but like at the end of the day, like if the judge just deems your mat to not be usable, then just get a different mat. Like it's not the end of the world. And like if you're bringing a mat that you're like not sure if the judge is going to accept, you should just probably not bring the mat. Like don't even like put yourself in a spot where it's even like close to being like a questionable thing, you know?
Yeah.
It should be known that other games typically have, as you're explaining, J-Rod, that kind of understanding where a judge would make the determination, not a just flat out
Mhm.
ban.
And
It just
realistically, most judges would just say, "Hey, just swap the mat out," and like like you're not gonna get usually you won't get a game loss typically unless like they told you to swap it and you don't. Then you might get some repercussions. But typically, it's like, "Hey, we're not gonna allow that. Swap the mat out, and you're fine." And like, okay, then maybe you go spend $20 and go get a random mat from one of the vendors or something like.
Or you
it
don't even
feels
need a
very
play.
it just feels very corporate, like they're just trying to cover their own behinds
Yeah.
and be like, well, if we just do this, there's no way to get in trouble with anything, right? Like,
Yeah.
Do you think there's a place for a different ruling with casual or store level events versus like their more competitive tier, Galactic Ambition or
yeah,
other events?
nobody's gonna enforce this rule
Mm.
except for actually the
Like
competitive
FFG,
tier
yeah.
OP
Yeah.
stuff, right? Like
But yeah, that's the
even
thing is
even
like
at your store showdowns, nobody's gonna care.
yeah.
I don't think.
I mean, if it's against the store's guidelines,
Yeah,
like
of course,
of
yeah.
what they want, like if they're like a family friendly store and you have some lube grillers, they still might not want that at the store. But each store is going to kind of gauge it how they would typically do it for any other game, rather than just a blanket. You can't use that because it's not FFG. Like I don't think any store level event, even like store showdown, so like dude was saying, will really affect that.
Yeah.
Like you're just gonna play with your sleeves with your mat like you would any time,
Like
any
I
other
would
time.
say,
Speak. It's just
even some of like the bigger regional events that would still be held at stores, that might be like the smaller. Not the it's like one step from Store Show. I don't know if I forget the name of it is. Like I don't know if it's like Planetary Qualifier. It's like whatever the smaller one is from the other section there, like the competitive side. That's gonna be like in like a region in a store most of the time. I think even those will just be like, yeah, you can use the mat you want for the most part, as long as it's within reason.
Well, FFG has shown us recently that they are receptive to hearing players' feedback. Recently, we saw that with the language issue, where if you could before you couldn't have multiple cards with different languages in the same deck, and they've listened to feedback from players. So hopefully that they will, if we all kind of make our presence known, they will take some feedback, and maybe that rule will change.
And to be clear with that, we're saying be positive and constructive with all feedback here, folks. Don't be
Yeah.
attacking anyone because we want to be helpful and grow this community and mold it to how we would like it, not necessarily try to tear anyone down for choices that may not have even been up to them. It could have been some folks who don't play card games made that choice higher up that and they had to just follow it. So
Well, and from my point of view, also, this is a very small issue compared
mhm.
to basically they've done almost everything perfectly so far. So I think issues are going to happen, and it's if this is the biggest quote unquote deal, right, of issue with this game. I mean, that's great still, right? They just I feel like done so much other stuff well that it's fine. We can, but again, we stay positive about it, right? We give them our feedback, and yeah, we'll see if they listen and make some changes in the future.
And let's be fair, their mats have some awesome art, and their
They are pretty
sleeves,
cool
from
too.
what I hear and what I've seen,
I
seem to be very good and good quality. So like,
I
again,
actually
like
have some of the Game Genic sleeves and can
yeah,
attest that they feel nice in the hand and nice on the table.
And I have a two-player hyperspace mat, which I really like. I think it's a really nice mat. So we're not against those products. I think we just kind of want just a different experience. And I think you guys make a great point. Let's stay positive about it. But we're also just going to mention on this podcast, we're going to mention things that we disagree with. And there's a few other things that we experienced from our pre-release and some release events, which we kind of wanted to talk about in kind of a reflection on, and let's look at how we're going to what we're going to do with that going forward. The first one of these is tournament software, and J-Rod had some experiences running one of his events.
Yeah, I wasn't running this event. I was just partaking at it at one of my other local game stores. We were doing another sealed event the Monday after the pre-release weekend, and just having some fun. It was a small little event. It wasn't really like promoted. It was kind of like typical like our weekly store stuff. So we did another sealed on that Monday, and we had 3 rounds. I was 2-0 going into the last round, and because the software doesn't allow for any draws or intentional draws, you can't just split 1 and 2 there and just like split the pricing, which is typically what happens at the store level. Since there's nowhere in the software to allow that, we were forced to play it out. And unfortunately, in best of ones, I did lose game 1. My opponent had a very good deck and was a very good player. Shout out to my buddy Ron again. And he beat me. And unfortunately, that bumped me all the way down to 5th out of 8 players when I was basically in second place. There's also no, at least from what I can see, there's no like strength of schedule anywhere. So, and when prizing is like it was in this event where like it was relatively top heavy, they made some changes when I kind of like was like, hey, this seems kind of crappy that I was 2-0 and then lost and then am basically going to get like a pack or two when I should have gotten like 6 or 7 packs based on like the great prizes the store had. Because they were being very generous with the packs for this event because it was their more frequent players there, so they were kind of like giving back to us a little bit, saying thank you for supporting us, and so they kind of balanced out the packs a little bit more. So they did right by me, but it just kind of felt unfortunate that this tournament system allows for things like this to happen, especially for like new players. A new player comes in and they go 2-0, they're like, oh man, like I'm in the last round, like I just could have win this one last game, and they fortunately lose, which is going to happen, and that's okay. But it really stinks. Like, there's no shot they should be anywhere below third, and even third's kind of like, they should probably just get second place because that's like they were in the finals and they lost, which means you get second, right? Like if you were at your store showdown, you would get second place. So something needs to change with this system. So there's a better way to handle this because it's a really bad feeling when it happens to you.
Yeah, and so on my part, I didn't have any direct experience interacting with the tourney software. I just know what I was told by the different TOs of the 2 pre-release events I went to. At the first event, they were having some issues, just specifically printing off, like they wanted to print off the actual physical like matchup pairings, and they ended up having to use a different program to get those printed off. I'm not sure what the exact issue was there, but it might have just been like some functionalities missing there or something. And then, but the second event, it seemed to work fine. They used it for the whole event, and it seemed to flow smoothly. So it might just be that kind of similar, I mean, to their website and to the rules a little bit, that they might just need to tweak a few things, update it a little bit, and yeah. But I just think it's great that they at least have something this like
Mhm.
for pre-release they have an like tournament software. They have an app for this, right? Is awesome. So I yeah, I hope that they can, make a little few improvements, upgrades, add some functionality, whatever is needed. I don't know, like I said, too much about it, so but yeah, I mean, it's good that we have it, and I hope that they continue to improve it.
Step one, if you wanted to do a rug pull, is you would not invest time and money into a software program. And so this shows us that FFG is committed to this game. We're very thankful for that commitment. And there's going to be these little tweaks, there's going to be these little bugs. It's going to be a process. I think as we're echoing, we just got to be patient. But it is good to acknowledge that these were things that we're working through still.
Yeah, and granted, this is in the beta phase. They did mention that I do work at a store, and one of their things said like, "Hey, just as a reminder, this is in the beta phase." So, I also took that into consideration when this was happening. You know that hey, it's probably something that they might even know exists as an issue, and just the way they had to roll it out to be in time for pre-release was unfortunately this is how they had to roll it out to have something available for people to use. Which if that was the case, totally get it. Just bringing up the issue to make sure that they have eyes on it and they can hopefully resolve it for their future to make sure it doesn't happen in the future.
And hopefully, if you were affected by one of these issues, that you don't give up hope, that you keep coming out, and we all have faith that things will change and things will be better. Another issue that some people were talking about is in the rules, there was an idea that if a game did not go to completion and you were tied in the series, so either 1-1 or 0-0, that instead of it ending in a draw, that it would result in both players receiving a loss. Some people had discussed that this was a feel bad. What are your guys' thoughts on this, or what did you guys hear from your events?
So I have not didn't experience this myself. I didn't have any games that went to time, but I did notice a few other people had that problem. It's a little awkward. It's hard to just tell because a lot of these people are playing the game at the pre-release for the first time, right? Or they have very little experience with the game. So they're obviously going to take longer. They don't know what their cards do, right? They're reading cards, right? Kind of as they go. So obviously games are going to take a lot longer as people are as learning, especially if both players are learning, right, as they go. So it's difficult to judge like based on these pre-release events right away. I'll say I feel like best of 3 had this issue more than best of 1. I can't remember how much time we were given for best. I think it was like 25 minutes maybe for best of 1, and is most players are easily. I don't think I think only maybe 1 went to time, and they just took like an extra 2 minutes and finished it, right? Versus the best of 3s at 55 minutes, there was I saw multiple of those go to time, and so yeah, I'm not sure. I think we'll just have to wait and see, like, as players get more experience, if people are consistently hitting that limit. Like, I can see 2 heavy control decks, like, in a best of 3, that's potentially a problem. But I think as people learn, I just and from my experience playing the game a bunch, I think the game it's pretty fast, right, overall. So, it'll be interesting to see if this continues to be an issue.
It's definitely, I think, a bigger issue at pre-releases because there's a fine balance, right? Like you want to be able to have a event that runs smoothly and quickly, so you can get through all the things, so you can finish it. But also you don't want someone to feel bad. And definitely at this pre-release where people are reading the cards and learning the cards for the first time, and learning the game even sometimes for the first
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
Because I know in my experience, the only time we ever went to time, it was like 2 games that went to time in my pre-release, and both of them were when both players had never played before and they were both brand new. And, like, so I can only imagine all of the things that they were doing incorrectly in that game in the first place. I'm not saying misplays, but, like, just, like, getting rules wrong. Excuse me. So, like, it that's typically what you're gonna see for going to time, at least at pre-releases. When you get to the more competitive stuff, you'll see more folks going to time if, you know, if it's control versus control or whatever. But so that's another thing, and it also incentivizes slow playing in game 2 if you win game 1. Like, if you're playing control deck and you win game 1, it's like, you should definitely just take your time in game 2, because if it goes to time and time's up, then you win the game, and if you lose game 2 and you go to game 3 and you don't have enough time to finish game 3, which sometimes you don't in control, you're like, "Crap, I'm just gonna get a loss here because we both gonna get a loss." And that feels really bad too. So, it's I don't know a better solution personally, but, like, that just doesn't feel like a right solution.
On the Energy Conversation Lab from Unplayable, they had kind of talked about this feeling bad double loss situation, especially for new players. And I think that was a really important conversation they had. Something that I just want to highlight from it is their push for having 40-minute rounds, best of ones, just understanding that pre release is for newer players. And I think that made a lot of sense what they had said because we really want to encourage people to join the game, and this is a great way for them to jump in. They may not have a great deck after opening just a few packs at a premiere event, but they can compete at a relatively equal playing field in the pre-release. So we should really, I think, try to cater that experience for them as best as possible. Dudeness, you talked in the previous episode about your brother's experience. How do you think your brother would have handled being called at time and then figuring out he lost a game because he went too long because he was new and trying to understand everything?
That's a good question. I don't know how to answer it, honestly. I have no idea.
I mean,
But
it
I'm
just seemed like
sure
it'd be a sucky situation, right?
I'm
Like,
sure it wouldn't
yeah.
feel good, I'm sure. But I don't think we were even using like tournament software at the one we were using or the one we were at. It seemed a bit more casual except for that one particular guy.
I actually think it might be a cool, like, incentive to have, like, some kind of, like, champions. I don't mean champions as, like, a victor, but, like, champions is, like, someone who, like, helps new players, like, kind of like a judge, but not a judge, like, someone who's, like, solely there to, like, help people build decks, who's, like, who is experienced, like one of us, for example, like, our sole purpose there is, like, "Hey, we get, like, a kit or something like that, like, a cool, like, little promo in it, and we don't necessarily play in it, but we, like, get the same stuff we would if we did play in it, but then we just sit there and help people, like, learn and play and, like, make sure everyone's, like making sure everyone's having a good time. Because instead of having a
Right.
judge for pre-release, have someone like be a friendly helper for everyone, and then maybe someone like Dudeness wouldn't have run into the issues he had if like it was like known that like everyone was there to help anyone. So like whoever needs help, just like raise your hand and ask for a question. Like uh, just really trying to make privileges like that much more like wonderful for like new players to come in and try to learn the game. Like, oh, you have experienced players there to help you. Like they're not there to play against you. They're there to help you build and play and try the game out at the pre-release.
What an interesting idea, actually. I never thought about that. But like how even the idea of a judge kind of sounds so formal and maybe kind of intimidating, where something like you're describing, like a player advocate, might be a great solution to have a place where people can go and get better information. Another thing that you can do at your store, if your store is open to it, is showing up early and offering to play with people ahead of time so that they can, and if they're new or if they're maybe unfamiliar with some of the mechanics, you can teach them before the event starts as well. Being friendly at your event is also a great thing because you can just make relations with people and also help them out if they have any questions. And so, with that conversation, we're kind of getting out of some of the organized play events that we were running into. And just as we were all excited about the beginning of our Star Wars Unlimited journey with actual cards, we got news that Josh Massey, who was the head of the organized play for Star Wars Unlimited, had moved on to another opportunity. A lot of us, as we're happy for Josh, were sad to see him go because he built this great program over the last year and a bit. And just as it was about to start, his journey with FFG and Star Wars Unlimited in the company aspect had ended.
Yeah, and it seems like he had like a opportunity he couldn't pass up, which is good for him for jumping on that. And it really seems like he put a ton of time and effort into into the organized play system for this game, like just incentives to show up, right, and rewards and just different levels of events and all this planning before the game is even launched, right, just shows like just the dedication is awesome. So yeah, just sad to see him go. Wish him all the best, but and it's awesome that he was able to leave his mark on the game with this organized play system.
Yeah, he must have been doing something right if he got a big fat bag to move to a different company. So
And while you guys are using the term like leaving or goodbye, Josh doesn't necessarily like gone because he's still part of the community and loves the game and will probably still
Oh
play
yeah.
it. You know what I mean? I know I see him all the time in Ice Cave's Discord and other Discords chatting and showing off his like
yeah,
Spectre hyperfoils and like all that stuff. Like, and I think he's actually started chatting more when he moved on from FFG in the Discords more. So that was kind of cool and interesting to see someone who like was in that like dev spot to like, now moving on to different company doing similar stuff, but like able to just kind of be like another person in the Discord who loves and enjoys the game,
Yeah.
which just
Josh,
shows the passion the team has. Because I would imagine that his passion is very similar to many of the people in their on their team's passion. So to see him like, "Oh, I moved on now, but I still care about this community and still want to talk about it and still, want to do all that is just awesome.
Josh, if you're listening to this, thank you for your contribution to Star Wars Unlimited. Now let's look at and kind of talk about some of our initial thoughts on cards that we're seeing on TCG Player, how we're seeing the markets develop in this early stage of Star Wars Unlimited.
So our idea, and I think FFG's idea going into this was that there was going to be all the cool variants of hyper foils and hyperspace cards for the collectors to chase, while the normal cards would be actually like relatively cheap, more easily accessible for everybody. And at least so far, I mean, it's obviously way too early to tell, right? The game literally just launched as we're recording today, right? So, but seems to be like working, I guess, so far is the best way to put it. And there's a decent number of the rare and legendary cards are at pretty, not low, but like lower than we were expecting price wise, I think. So
I think Vader was pretty spot on to where I thought he would be. I figured he'd be like
yeah,
between like
yeah.
30 and 40. I guess where I am more shocked is like Luke, because typically in other Star Wars games, like Luke was always a character that always, even when not the top tier card, would always it cost a reasonable amount. And so it's kind of odd to me to have this Luke that's a very playable, like very good Luke, just doesn't really have the best home mostly due to other factors, but not himself. That he's at a low price. I think it's like of $10 as we're recording this,
For
and
Luke,
he's around there, 10-15, I
he's
believe.
around 15-ish.
Yeah, so that seems like super low to me. But he could still go lower because he's not really in any meta decks, right? Everyone's just playing green, and then splash another color, whether it's yellow for Boba or blue for Iden or red for Sabine. So if you're not in those colors, those decks don't really have too many legendaries other than Boba Fett unit and Darth Vader. And Sabine Green doesn't really use any legendaries, so like even Falcon's like $10-15 right now. So like I just traded a Falcon for an Avenger, and I felt bad because I felt like should be worth more than Avenger, but so the value was, and so I ended up, it was a friend of mine, so I ended up giving him some rares he needed for his deck to fill out his Sabine deck to kind of balance it out in my mind, just to kind of be like, hey, I kind of understand that this is what the market's at, but like I think it's worth more, so I'm just gonna make it fairer in my mind, so I don't feel bad. I don't know. It was
It pretty much. We knew Vader was going to be the most expensive. It's right now it's hovering around 40-ish,
Mhm.
42, 43. Boba's coming in number 2, about half that at 21-ish. And then we've got Luke and Falcon as 3 and 4, hovering around the same, around 15. And then the rest of the legendaries are under double digits. So like, I mean, that's good. Mission accomplished.
Yeah. I think this is great, right? If at least the vast majority of cards, right? Obviously, there's going to be these chase cards that are really strong, really popular characters, right? That people
The
are going to be
chase
paying
card
more for.
and the meta cards.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
like Darth Vader is a meta card.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's not because he's a collectible, it's because he's in the meta, and you need 3 of them if you play any villain green deck and wanna actually compete to the best of your ability.
yeah,
There's no other question. If you're playing mid-range Bubba, Darth Vader. If you're playing control Iden, Darth Vader. Like, there's 2 of the top 3 decks in the meta are looking for this very specific legendary, and right now the market is proving that, right?
yeah. But it's good that there are these cards that people are chasing, but like the vast majority of the cards are pretty accessible. Like you said, a lot of these other legendaries are under double
Double
digits
digit,
and are
yeah.
also I've seen some under like $5 also,
I
which is
almost bought
awesome.
2
So
aggressions earlier for, like, 750.
yeah, so and so that's really cool to see, and I think it's especially cool for people that are just wanting to play Twin Suns. I feel like Twin Suns is looking to be actually pretty affordable for people to play, right? If they just open some commons, uncommons, round out their decks with the single copies of whatever they want, right? They should be able to get a pretty, good Twin Suns deck because they don't need 3 legendaries, right, for that deck. So yeah, I mean, all in all, I personally think just based on my limited experience that it's looking pretty good so far. So
Just to clarify, these are again for the regular treatments of the
yep.
cards,
Mhm.
They're
a-
regular,
and
it's base treatments.
and as well, these prices are all going to change by the time we release this video.
Oh
These
yeah.
prices are going to be different. The market's going to be in flux for the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So we're going to just keep an eye on the market, and we're going to check in with you guys and give you our thoughts on what's happening. Now we got some exciting news from Gamma. We got some spoilers of art sleeves and a couple playmats that will be official accessories for Set 2 Shadows of the Galaxy. We here at Outmaneuver really don't want to talk too much about the cards until we actually get the cards, but we got some interesting images. And so, guys, what were our thoughts on what we saw there?
So I believe there's I think is it sleeves for Ray and Kylo Ren, which and the artwork looks first off the artwork looks amazing. Like on all of the things they've shown so far, it looks so good. But it also based on those characters being on sleeves makes us think that we're most likely going to get a Kylo Ren leader and a Ray leader next set, which is very cool to see. I didn't think that those were gonna be I thought that was gonna be like set 4, they'd do something with that, but I mean, Shadows of the Galaxy, I was initially thinking like, villainy, these like bounty hunters and underworld stuff, but I mean, I can kind of see how these characters would fit a little bit into that category a little bit, Ray being like scavenger type deal. So yeah, I mean, I think that's very cool. I mean, it's like again, we don't have the actual cards, and we won't for probably a good decent chunk of time. But it's cool that we're already getting like these little insights into some of the characters we can expect to see going forward.
I'm not sure if Ray and Kylo are going to be leaders necessarily. I'm thinking there may be more units.
It could be
Uh,
units too. Yeah.
yeah, because we do have the starter set leaders for set 2, so we're probably not. Yeah, so we'll have to see what we get from it.
See, you guys looked at all the arts and you were like, "Oh man, look at all these cool characters." And I'm over here like, "Oh, look at these sleeves that have what is it? It's green and yellow on them."
Green
Yeah.
and yellow to finish out the 4 aspect colors. Because I
Well,
have the blue sleeves right now, and they're
mhm.
pretty nice. And I could tell you right now, I'm getting those green sleeves 100%.
Well, my biggest thing is I actually not didn't really correlate them to the aspects, and I correlated them more to like a lightsaber
Yeah,
color.
same here, same here.
And so for me, as very big, my favorite color is orange, and my saber would be orange if I had one. I really hope that they try to do all the colors of the rainbow and like do all
Mm,
like basically you can pick the sleeve color that defines you and your deck to have more customization, and I think that would be awesome to have like 2 of each color for every set, just getting different hues and different types of colors, so that way every
okay.
person can have like their color be on their sleeves and they can go out and buy a ton of those packages of sleeves. They have all the sleeves in the world for that. Because I
Yeah,
promise you, if orange comes out, I am going out. I'm gonna go spend like $100 on packs of sleeves so I can have a bunch ready to go.
yeah, at first, I thought the blue and red was just sort of a light side, dark side thing,
Mhm,
but then they come out with the green and yellow, and then it's clear, well, these are aspect things, and
mhm.
maybe the set after that, we get hero and villainy colored.
Black
Yeah,
and
it
white,
could be
interesting.
interesting. I mean, they can do obviously a bunch of colors, but yeah, I do agree that that's really cool. More options is better, I think. So giving people a choice to pick their favorite color that doesn't exist in either red or blue right now, right, is really awesome. So I hope we see more of that type of thing in the future.
And no one's even talking about the playmat. There
The
was a
play,
playmat
yeah, the
with
playmats are really nice. Like,
Oh, do you mean the dark saber playmat or the
yeah,
the
carbon
there's
dark
playmat?
saber playmat. Yes, the dark saber playmat was pretty hype, honestly.
yeah,
We don't know that that is the going to be a dark saber art, but I'm pretty sure it does look like the dark saber is featured so prominently that
I
it
mean,
would make sense. It probably has a starter
it is
exclusive card, maybe.
confirmed already that Mandalorian versus Moff Gideon is going to be the starter set.
Which
The
basically
other starter
means
set had the lightsabers, Luke's and Vader's,
yeah.
and my boy did have his own dark saber.
Oh, what if like in the starter set there's like a mini game of like stealing the dark saber from one another? Like that's part of like how like you
Okay, no,
guys you can
hear me
like
out. Do you guys remember the keyword redeploy from Star Wars Destiny? What if it just
ah
had redeploy, but to the unit that
remind me what that said. I don't
defeated it?
remember what redeploy is.
Redeploy is whenever you have an upgrade that's defeated on one of your characters, you can redeploy it to one of your other characters. So it's sort of
Mm,
like redeploy, but it redeploys to your opponent who just killed you or killed the unit or whatever that had it.
interesting.
That could be spicy, right?
That actually would be very fitting of the dark saber, right? Because
Yeah,
whoever
it kind
defeats
of
that
fits
in battle.
thematically. It's got some nice flavor, you know.
This is sounding a lot like spoiler talk, and we should.
It is, and we should start moving
yeah,
on.
we gotta move on. Yeah.
Wait, there's more.
We
But
do
wait,
hope we are excited for set 2 to come out in its
but
proper time.
this is
Right now,
literally set one launch. This
we
is
want to
set one's
enjoy
time
set
to
1
shine. This is
time.
set
Yeah,
one's time to shine.
Just
we
wanted
can
to
talk.
cover the art real quick, right?
Yes,
We
because it
just
was
found out
new
about
news.
that.
It
Yeah.
was new news.
So
Yeah,
But set two though, it's gonna be really
we
No, shut it,
cool.
shut it.
we will talk about Shadows of the Galaxy information as more information comes out to us, but we're hoping that doesn't come until May, late April.
Tomorrow,
6 weeks, 6
right
weeks at
now,
the
right
very
now.
least. 6 weeks.
I am in the minority. I want it now.
So as we look ahead, not only at set 2, but also for the rest of Star Wars Unlimited, what are our long-term hopes for Star Wars Unlimited? FFG is clearly showing us that they are committed. They have sets 6 up to 6 already planned. We've got content till 2027. What do we want from this game?
I mean,
I good, Carmen.
like, well, it's difficult for me to put into words like how much I respect like the commitment, the passion, the dedication that they've shown for this game and how hard they're pushing it. And me personally, I am pretty much all in at this point. The game is an absolute blast to play. It's fun, it's fast. There's so much strategic thinking. The packs are designed out of the gate for limited play. You've got Twin Suns off the bat, organized play. Everything is just like they've nailed almost every aspect of this game. No pun intended, right? So it's I just want to see the game. I just want to see how far it can go, right? I just want to push it, support it as best I can, support my game stores, right? And just take the ride, right? Essentially.
I
Uh,
want to be the very best, like no one ever was.
Ever was.
all
To
right, copyright.
catch
Cut it.
them
Cut it.
is
Cut it.
my
Cut it.
real test.
Copyright. Ah! So you want to be competitive. Got it. For me,
Somewhat, you know.
yeah. I mean, I'll admit I actually already signed up for a local 1K. It's about an hour and a half from me. It's actually on May the 4th, which is pretty rad. So I am also a very competitive player that will be traveling far and wide to defeat my enemies. But see what I did there? But I also, I also want to have my Rex and Ahsoka Twin Sons deck, and I don't care how terrible that deck is. I'm gonna have it showcased and blinged out, and it could be terrible, it could be great, who knows? But it's gonna be Rex and Ahsoka,
Can
my
be
two favorite
fun.
characters. Yeah, man. Like I don't. From what I've seen, I honestly am just excited for the ride because it's gonna be great. It's just my honest opinion there. Like I don't really even want to say things because what I say is probably not even gonna be as good as what this team has been able to create. So like it's just like it's not even worth me saying any ideas I have because they're so amazing at what they do that I just want to let them
Yeah.
do what they do best,
The
I
journey matters more than the destination.
yeah.
And the people you journey with also.
Exactly. Precisely.
You guys are all right.
I
Faith, the nicest person in the group, just supposed to be mean in the podcast.
I tolerate you guys at a base level, but
So I on my Facebook recently, I got a memory from it's for Facebook is a website, social media website for people that are
shut
under the
up,
age
You know
of
my
bro.
a certain age.
Oh my god, dude.
You're the biggest boomer.
But on it, I got a memory of a time that me and friends drove to a city about 8 hours away for an event for Magic the Gathering, and what
Ooh, that's
this
cool.
what this game. It's been about 10 years since I played Magic, and this game has really kind of really reinvigorated me in a card game in the aspects of making a deck. I love the limited environment, and I'm just really excited to ultimately crack packs with friends. Tomorrow, I'm going to head over to a friend's house. We're going to do some drafting, and like that's the experience that I'm so looking forward to. I think this game is great. I love the deck building. I love the actual gameplay. So I don't want to say that I have a lot of hopes, but I think this game has what it takes to be a long term game. There's a lot that goes into that. A lot of things need to go right, but I think this game can be in the top echelon of TCGs 5, 10 years down the line if everything goes well.
Yeah, I think to kind
That's
of just
definitely not copium.
I think to kind of sum up our like general sentiment, right, is that like we feel that the game is here to stay and we are all here to stay with it and support it, right? That's kind of where we're at. So
Well, thanks everyone for what you had to share today. Let us know in the comments which card you want to see in Shadows of the Galaxy. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time on Outmaneuver.